Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider TV presented by Buffalo Rock. Tonight, Rodney, we're enjoying Diet, or about to enjoy Diet Pepsi. There's the top of the top. I'm Gary Harris. This is Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Remember, for the latest on the Crimson Tide 24/7, log on to TiderInsider.com. Rodney, we've got to talk about the disappointment in Baton Rouge off the top tonight. The Crimson Tide saw its BCS National Championship dreams go up in smoke Saturday after losing to LSU 24-21 at Death Valley. Nick Saban said following the game he thought his players got too caught up in the results of trying to win the game and not doing the things that it takes to win, to play to that standard that he talks about. You can't worry about the result. You have to worry about what it takes to get better. It was a point that on Monday at his press conference, he reiterated.
You know, I know it's my responsibility to get the results, and I take those, but I feel like you get the results by being the best you can be. I feel like you get the results by doing the things you need to take advantage to dominate the opponent that you play against, whether it's your effort, your toughness, your discipline to execute, all the things that we talk about all the time. So if you lose sight of that, then you're not going to be as good as you can be.
All right, Rodney, let's break it down if we can. We watched the game. Obviously, we saw what everybody that watched the game saw, and that was an Alabama team that in the first half I thought defensively played as well as they've played all year. They were fast to the ball. You could tell they had had a bye week. They were aggressive. They were making plays. LSU's only points came after an Alabama turnover. Other than that, defensively, Alabama was about perfect, but still only 7-3 at the half, and I think you and I both felt like the Tide had a chance to have a bigger lead than that.
Well, yeah, I did and you did. And, you know, Gary, when you look at it, again, the thing that kind of, if you want to say, is the most disappointing thing of it all was, you know, how good Alabama's offense looked. And, again, I realize it was against Tennessee. LSU's quite a different defense. But still, you know, when you looked at Alabama did not seem to come out aggressive offensively as they had been in the second half against Tennessee, you know, throwing the ball deep down the field, trying to make things happen with balance and that kind of thing. And they just couldn't get the running game going. And, again, I realize LSU's a different defense, but it did seem like Alabama's offense was a little uptight.
You know, you mentioned that second half against Tennessee, and I think all of us felt like that Alabama kind of turned the corner in that game. They threw the ball down the field. It opened up the running lanes. Man, they looked good. I was a little disappointed in the game plan for LSU in the first half. It looked like it went right back to what they'd done all year, checking the ball down, throwing it short, throwing it underneath, running the ball between the tackles. You know, they call it the Wildcat, but really Mark Ingram back there in the single wing, everybody knows what's coming when he catches the ball. He's running it right up the middle. Defenses have picked up on that. He's getting, you know, stymied at the line of scrimmage through no fault of his own, or really through no fault of the offensive lines. And when you got 8 or 9 guys with 5 or 6, you can't block them all. The second half, once they got down by 10, they went into 2-minute. McElroy moved them down the field. They looked really sharp, and I think had they gotten the ball back, would have at least tied it, if not won the game. Of course, we know what happened on 3rd and 13. Alabama chooses not to blitz. DeMarcus Milner turns the guy loose down the sideline. Shepard makes a huge play, and they win the game. But getting back to the offensive game plan in the first half, what did you think of it?
Well, first of all, you know, when you looked at again, going back to the second half against Tennessee, you saw a lot of balance. You saw Alabama come out on the first play of the second half against Tennessee, throw the ball down the field, 38-yard completion to Julio Jones, and it kind of snowballed from there. And, you know, they had such great balance, and you were hoping that they would come out aggressively against LSU. But, again, as you mentioned, Gary, they kind of went back into that same shell, and they've just not developed a rhythm or an identity offensively this year. For whatever reason, they haven't been able to do it. I think there's probably been some struggles up front offensively. Let's be honest, you know, although Alfred McCutcheon played well, you've lost DJ Fluker. You know, Mike Johnson at left guard was, you know, Chance Warmack's done an outstanding job, but again, you lose some leadership there with Mike Johnson, the experience that he had. And again, I think they probably struggled a little more up front offensively. William Vallejos had a difficult time with Drake Nevis, obviously. So, you know, those things all add up.
And real quickly, defensively, again, the first half was great, and still they only gave up 24 points. It's not like they got lit up for 45 points. I thought overall they played well, but the big plays, the bust-in coverage, you know, the backside defensive end chasing a play down on a reverse and leaving it wide open going back the other way. The decision not to blitz on 3rd and 13 against Jarrett Lee, a guy known for panicking a little bit. They let him stand back there and just survey the field. you know, it wasn't that they didn't play well, but they didn't make the plays they had to make.
Well, you're right, exactly. And, you know, when you look at Jordan Jefferson, the quarterback, we talked about this last week, and he had only passed for 77 yards, average 77 yards a game, passed one play to Reuben Randall. And obviously, that was a huge, huge play in the game. And I think that kind of put Alabama on its heels. And, you know, we saw some of the mistakes defensively in the secondary. DeMarcus Milner turning Randall loose late in the game. And, you know, those kind of things happen sometimes. But as you mentioned, the defense did play really well in the first half. And then, you know, once LSU hit the big play in that 93-yard drive, whatever it was, that kind of just turned it around.
All right, we mentioned the BCS hopes up in smoke. Alabama's chances of getting the SEC championship game for a third straight year now. Not impossible, but improbable. Here's what has to happen. First, the Tide has to win its remaining SEC games against Mississippi State and Auburn. In addition, Auburn has to lose to Georgia as well as Alabama. And finally, LSU has to lose to either Ole Miss or Arkansas. It could happen, not likely. So Alabama, it looks like, not going to make it to the SEC championship game. Although, again, if it's a 3- or 4-way tie, Alabama wins the tiebreaker and would be the representative. Of course, now what Alabama has to do is worry about Mississippi State. And this is a team I just said it on 6 o'clock sports. If you don't follow football that closely, you may be surprised to know that Mississippi State's record is just as good as Alabama's, 7-2. And I tell you something, they could have beaten Auburn. They're the team that, you know, if that guy catches the ball at the 12-yard line, they may win that game and be 8-1. But this is a football team that is pretty good and believes that it can come in here and win.
Dan Mullen comes back to Gainesville.
Yeah, it'd be a big win for us. You know, I think we have pretty high expectations ourselves and high expectations how we want our season to be. We've been successful to a point this far, and so I think that would just kind of be a natural deal for us to hopefully we continue that success and keep improving on the good year we've had.
And Mississippi State, a confident football team. Man, it was a huge win for them at Florida. It was one of those breakthrough-type wins. Again, this isn't a team, you know, certainly Alabama's at home. I think Alabama's more talented. But this isn't a Mississippi State team hoping to come in here and win and play well. They're a team believing they can come in here and win.
Well, yeah, and they do it, you know, Gary, physical running game. And also, they are very good up front defensively. You have Fletcher Cox, Pernell McPhee. As you remember, Alabama recruited both of those guys. And, you know, they're very, very sound defensively, physical, and possibly, you know, obviously they don't have a Drake Nevis like LSU does, but man for man across the front, they're pretty good. They're pretty close to LSU. And they're going to be a very difficult team to run the football on, and they run the football. So that's pretty much it's going to be another physical game.
And still to come on this edition of TITV, we'll make our predictions for the Mississippi State game. But first, it's being dubbed as Spitgate. Did former Alabama fullback LeRon McClain intentionally spit in an opponent's face, or was it accidental? We'll discuss this big story in the NFL. Tider Insider TV will also be taking your phone calls and getting to your emails. There's the information on the screen that you need to reach us, so please do. Stay tuned. You're watching the show that takes you inside the Tide, the one, the only, Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock. Time to talk to you about one of my favorite places to dine in Tuscaloosa. I'm talking, of course, about Nuke's Express Cafe, 205 University Boulevard East in Tuscaloosa, open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. If you go to Nuke's often, no doubt you've seen me in there from time to time because I like it all. The oven-toasted sandwiches, the California-style pizzas, the hand-tossed salads, and that incredible homemade soup. They've got 4 soups. They rotate them daily, so you never have to get bored. Everything's made with fresh ingredients. They've got a beer and wine menu, a great dessert menu featuring cakes, brownies, and Rice Krispie treats. Call for your catering needs at 758-2455. Nuke's Express Cafe, 205 University Boulevard East in Tuscaloosa. Well, some strange news from the NFL regarding a former Alabama standout and former Tuscaloosa County High football star LeRon McClain. Miami Dolphins linebacker Channing Crowder, who played at Florida, so these two hooked up in college, accused the now Baltimore Ravens fullback of spitting in his face during the third quarter of Sunday's game between the two teams, which the Ravens won. Afterwards, Crowder unleashed an expletive-laced tirade following his team's 26-10 loss to LeRon's Ravens.
Oh, y'all can write it, get your pens out, and you keep it first. The punk, LeRon McClain, write it down. Spit in my face. Spit in my face. Write it, keep writing. He spit in my face, and that's why I got mad. So the refs told me they didn't see nothing. They didn't see the spit hit my face. So he's the and he's a so go tell him.
Oh, man, I ain't that type of player. I'm a ball player, man. I mean, if he frustrated that I, was just straight getting after him all game, that's a fact. That's his opinion if he thought I spit on him, whatever. But the fact is, throughout the game, for 4 quarters, you know, I was doing my job, you know, and I just leave it at that.
Did you spit on him?
No, I ain't spit on him. That's crazy. That's not my game, man. I'm LaRon McClain, man. LaRon McClain don't spit on other players, but I will block him 4 quarters. That's a fact.
Now that was LaRon on Sunday saying he didn't spit in Crowder's face. Video, though, seems to lend some credence to the story. And after his initial denial, LaRon later said on Twitter, "Video shows me arguing with the guy, called him something, and I guess a little spit got on him, not on purpose, but I have to move on to Atlanta." Now, listen, you know, spitting on somebody is not a good thing. We know that, and you know, it certainly could have been intentional sometimes when you're loud and you know, spit can come out of your mouth. I will say this, and you know, we don't know for sure. The video looks like something happened, but again, you can't tell 100% for certainty. But I do know this: Channing Crowder talks and talks and talks and talks and talks before the game, during the game, after the game. It wasn't just LaRon. A lot of the Baltimore players were ticked off at this guy. So it's one of those unfortunate things that happen sometimes in competition, but it's made for a lot of interesting stories this week in the NFL.
Well, it's not indicative of LaRon's character,
guy.
certainly.
You know, and again, I don't want to defend LaRon McClain. He can do that for himself, but he has been a great guy for us to deal with, going back all the way to Tuscaloosa County High School. Class act, in our opinion. Well, stick around. We'll give you our picks on Alabama and Mississippi State. But first, we are going to take some phone calls and answer some email questions and take those comments off email as well. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Call us, and we will get to your phone calls next here on Title Insider TV.